Before we get to this episode, I want to talk about Grammarly. If you are creating content or even in your day-to-day job, you're writing emails, you're making tweets, you're making social media posts, Grammarly, I can't tell you enough how much I love it. Prior to this recording, I gave it a week trial, and after that, I ended up buying a premium subscription with them. Not only does it integrate well with whatever browser you're using, but it's easy, it's seamless, and honestly, it makes me want to go back and check all the old posts, blog posts, content that I've written for YouTube, just to make sure that the punctuation is correct. I can't stress enough how in your day-to-day, how much easier it makes writing for any type of content. Like I said, email, social media, blog posts, all that kind of stuff. Check out the link in the description. At the bare minimum, start a week trial with it. I think you're going to love it, and make sure to click that link in the description so that they know that we sent you.
Feeling inspired by hosts Ron and Tyler? This episode of the Movie Buffs podcast is brought to you by the YouTube workout channel Time to Train Fitness. With all things YouTube, it's free. Jump into a bar class, crank out a cycling workout, or pump out a strength session. Everything you need to work out for free at home. Check out the description and subscribe today.
You heard the promo about Time to Train Fitness and you're thinking, how do I get some dumbbells? There's really only two products that I recommend when it comes to at-home fitness, and one of those are the Core Home Fitness Adjustable Dumbbells. If you're already following the YouTube workouts, these are the dumbbells that I use, me, Tyler, and you've probably seen me adjust them between the weights super fast. Along with adjusting quickly, they go from 5 pounds to 50 pounds and feel great in the hands. Head to the link in the description and grab yourself a pair. You have the free workouts on YouTube and will now have the dumbbells to help you reach your fitness goals. Let's get to the episode. Welcome to another instant reaction episode in the Movie Buffs podcast. My name is Tyler Valencia, and I'm going to be going through Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. Now, I'm going to give a disclaimer here that I've never played D&D. I didn't even do any research into D&D prior to this, so I don't know about the characters, any of that. And I'm hoping that the D&D fans give me a break here and they view it as this is the general public kind of review, spoiler-free review. And because I'll admit it, the internet it's a tough place. And I've seen it happen before with reviews, and that was kind of why I was on the fence about even doing this one, because without knowing much about D&D, going into it in terms of watching it, having an open mind, and I'll say right now, enjoying it, I think that that's part of my reasoning for doing this instant reaction episode, to hopefully get some others that are thinking, I don't know anything about it, or, is there anything to watch? Here you go. Here's something entertaining, fun. And so putting it out there, I don't know anything about D&D, didn't know anything about the characters, any of that kind of stuff. I just know that it's a board game that can take a long time. There's some storytelling, there's some adventures, all that kind of stuff, magic. And that's really the extent to what I know. And so this movie, we saw it at the time of this recording almost a full week ago. And I meant to record this episode earlier in the week, but just got a little busy. And so about a week ago, made a last minute change to what we were going to see. My wife and I, we were planning to see Super Mario Brothers, but the reviews surrounding Super Mario Brothers and the conversation around it, and this is last week, not after its release. And I mean, its release is doing pretty well, but the reviews are not doing that well. But we switched it to D&D because there's a lot of positive feedback going around about the movie in terms of how it's filmed, the comedy, the adventure, all that kind of stuff. A lot of positive feedback around it. So we're like, hey, let's just do it. Let's just go see D&D instead. And we can wait a week or 2 weeks to see Super Mario Brothers if we want to see it still. And again, without knowing anything about D&D, I mean, the extent to what I know, I already mentioned, but you've seen it in Stranger Things. My little sister's boyfriend is a fan of it, and that's really about it. And I'm going to kind of go into a little part about, I mentioned in the last instant reaction episode I did, how I do a initial walking out of the theater response. And this is like when my wife and I were walking out, she go, when we make a joke about it, well, what'd you think? And so like, that's that initial reaction, walking out of the theater. You just saw it. What do you think? And I call it that because once time goes by, you get some time to think about it. Sometimes that changes. Sometimes your initial response changes. But my quick response and my walking out of the theater response was that it's a lot of fun. And it's not a good feature about this. It's not a drawn out beginning describing the universe. I mean, you see monsters, you see wizards, you see humans all in the beginning, and they don't describe any of it. You go into it knowing, okay, there's some magic. It's a different type of universe. It's not just humans. And I like that they don't do that. It builds the story quickly of why they're in this situation, why they're going on this adventure, why they're doing all these things. And it makes it fun that way when you just, I'll say probably the screenwriters, the story writers, the director, they just go into it knowing that the audience probably knows all these things, and let's just get into it. Let's just go with it, and just hopefully they are not thrown off. Oh, there's a monster, there's magic. Well, why do they have those types of things? And with this one, with the story building, you get caught up into it quicker. And I mean, they catch you pretty well with all the one-liners. The one-liners in this movie, they hit pretty well. They're all funny, and it's something that's enjoyable. So that's really my walking out of theater response, is that it's enjoyable, it's fun, and it's funny. There's the one-liners in it that from all the characters, they all have some funny one-liners. So be ready for all of that. A quick promo break here in this episode. If you've been a fan of our podcast, you've probably already heard me, Tyler, one of your hosts, talk about the Naboso insoles. If you are ever wondering about, what are insoles? How do they help my feet? Are they really useful? I got to tell you that I've been wearing these Duo insoles for probably a year and a half now, and I think they're game changers. If you sit at a desk, if you are on your feet, so basically anybody, for anybody in the world, they can really help with your health. If you ever have foot pain, or if you have any type of issues with your feet, these can be a game changer for you. Hopefully, you take my word on it. You head to the link in the description, you buy yourself a pair, and you come back and you share it that, I actually bought those insoles and they actually do work. That'd be something that we'd love to hear, love to see, because that means that you're working on your health. That's it for the promo break. Let's get back to the episode. Let's take a step back and talk about the cast and crew. Director, John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein. Now, I didn't know this, and again, this is bad on my part, someone that does a movie podcast, that I didn't research these parts of it before. Just kept a very open mind, didn't look anything up before this, and it's the team that did Game Night. If you're a fan of Game Night, that was another movie that surprised a lot of people. The one-liners, the storytelling, all that kind of stuff. And you might actually remember John Francis Daly from Waiting if you're a fan of that movie. He's like the newbie coming onto the staff, or Freaks and Geeks. He's the brother. And so he is one of the directors of this. They have some great writing credits too. Spider-Man Homecoming, Horrible Bosses 2, that I really feel like their resume of directing, writing, it suits this kind of unique area. Game Night, D&D, Horrible Bosses, Spider-Man Homecoming. There's elements of comedy, action in there that make it fun. They're all fun movies that the audience is going to enjoy. Now the cast, Chris Pine. Hopefully you know who Chris Pine is. Michelle Rodriguez. And I'm just going to throw a little joke in here. I'm typically not a big fan of Michelle Rodriguez. I wish that once she died in Fast and the Furious, she would have stayed dead. But that's just my own little beef with Michelle Rodriguez. But she's great in the movie. She's funny. And I'm going to come back to actually talking about Chris Pine and her in just a second. Justice Smith, Sophia Lillis, Hugh Grant, and Reggie Jean Page. And you might know him from Bridgerton. That was my wife's favorite person to see on the screen. Now, talking about the cast, relationships, all that kind of stuff, I'm going to say this because it's something that I thought about with a different series that I'm going to be doing a rankings with later on. But in this movie, it's nice to see a movie that doesn't push a relationship, a love story. And that's kind of a spoiler, maybe. Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez, they're not a couple in this. They're friends. And they talk about this in the beginning 10 minutes of the movies. And it's fine. It's fine for people of different genders, different sexes, to have platonic relationships. It doesn't always have to be a forced love story in a movie. That's one of my beefs right now with some of the shows, movies that come out. They force it. And the joke that I made about this when I was walking out of the theater was, I don't care for The Rock having a love story in his movies, in his action movies. I personally can't see The Rock having a love story with anybody. I don't like it when they push those in his movies. I want The Rock just to hit people, jump off of buildings. I want him to go off of helicopters. I want him to do action. I don't want to see him kissing the female actress in the movie. I just want to see him punching things. And it's always nice. It was a nice piece of it that I noticed and that I thought was a great piece of it, that they're friends and they are good friends that help. It's not a spoiler, that she helps him raise his kid. Great story. And it's not a forced relationship that you're like, oh, of course they got together kind of thing. Just friends. Great. You can leave it there. Now, IMDb summary for this, I always throw this in here, is a charming thief and a band of unlikely adventurers embark on an epic quest to retrieve a lost relic. But things go dangerously awry when they run afoul of the wrong people. I think I mispronounced one of those words there, but we're just going to keep it rolling. Now, this segues to adventure storylines. And I put this in this episode because I always hear about complaints with movies that are supposed to be adventures, supposed to be sci-fi adventures. And I'm more thinking about, and I feel like I'm opening a can of worms here when I'm going to say this, with J.J. Abrams and Star Trek. That's just action. It's not adventure. But whenever I think about this, whenever I think about what does that even mean? What are they supposed to be doing if there's not action in the movie? If there's no storyline, there's no ups and downs. And in this, I never really understood it. Just thinking about D&D, because it's like an adventure storyboard game with role playing, all these kinds of things, world building. And what are they supposed to be doing? Just riding the horses the whole movie, just talking on it, occasionally running into a wizard that gives them a spell or some type of relic, and then they just keep moving on the horses. You need elements of action in there to keep people entertained, and especially with movies. It's not the board game, so you have to have those elements in it. But it is an adventure, this movie. They started off talking about, okay, they're getting you, the audience, invested. Here's what the main characters need to do. Here's the ensemble that they need to build to go get this because they need to accomplish X, Y, Z. Adventure. Boom. And so this movie, it's a fun adventure with all the elements I've already talked about, with the comedy, with the actors, with the relationships, why they're doing X, Y, and Z. And they get you emotionally invested with different elements of it as well. So I know this is a rather quick one in terms of instant reactions. And it's because, again, I'm not familiar with this universe, with the characters, with the board game. But I want to get this episode out here in the podcast because it's something that I think people should watch. It's fun. That's my recommendation. Watch it. It's a good pick-me-up movie. Take your kids. I think it's good for kids. Take your significant other. If you can't go to the theaters, watch it at home when it comes available for rent, because I think you'll enjoy it. I think you'll enjoy it, and maybe there will be an uptick in D&D after this, which I always think is great. It's not for me, but I always think it's great that when things, I don't want to say little because I know D&D is big. I just went to a store the other day where they do D&D stuff, but it's something that hopefully brings in a new audience. If more people enjoy this kind of stuff and a movie comes out and it creates an uptick, that's always a positive in my book. Even if I'm not a fan of it, positive, more people looking at it and more people hopefully enjoying it. So watch this movie, enjoy it, get your popcorn ready, get ready to laugh, potentially get ready for a tear to drop because it has all those elements. This has been another instant reaction episode in the Movie Buzz Podcast. As always, thank you for listening. If you can, drop us a comment on social media, on the reel that goes on with this, whether it's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Leave us a review on your favorite podcasting platform. But until the next one, I'll see you then.